Welcome to Random Movie Reviews. I'm Nathan, and today I'll be talking about Starman. So as I mentioned in both my Terminator and Ghostbusters film reviews that I did last month, I want to be talking about movies that are having major anniversaries this year. 1984 being a very big year because all those movies are going to be turning 40 years old. And unlike both the Terminator and Ghostbusters, which are films that are seen as iconic, beloved classics, they're pretty much certified classics. Everybody knows them. Everybody loves them. I want to talk about a film that hasn't gotten its due. In my opinion, and that is Starman. Starman is a really interesting movie, especially in comparison to the rest of John Carpenter's filmography. John Carpenter, in particular, is probably in my top 5 favorite filmmakers. Movies like Halloween, The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, They Live, Escape from New York. I mean, these are movies that not only do I consider them to be Carpenter's finest films, but they're all personal favorite movies of mine. I've seen them all countless times over the years, ever since I first discovered them back in high school. And I just frankly never really ever get sick of those movies. But Starman, for a long time, was one of the only Carpenter films, specifically during his run of movies in the 1980s, starting with The Fog, that I had never seen before. I first watched this movie back in 2021. I ordered the Scream Factory Blu-ray that you see right here. And I went into it knowing literally nothing. I didn't know who was in it. I was like, it's a Carpenter movie. I'm going to watch it. So I just ordered the Blu-ray because it was super cheap. And come to find out that it's starring both Karen Allen and Jeff Bridges, who I'm big fans of. Jeff Bridges in particular is amazing. The Big Lebowski, I mean, forget about it. One of my favorite movies ever. But I just ended up really loving this movie, and it is a refreshing film in Carpenter's filmography. It really stands out, tonally speaking. Carpenter is known as being kind of a cynical filmmaker in terms of his tone, in terms of his exploration of like humanity and things like that, and the government. If you look at like Escape from New York and the ending of that movie, he has a very cynical, nihilistic tone in that movie and The Thing in particular. And Starman is a complete 180 from that, and it really shows just how versatile John Carpenter was. I mean, he's a director who could pretty much do anything in his prime, and this is kind of his Spielberg film, if you will. It feels very much kind of in the same tone as E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but it's not nearly as schmaltzy at those movies or as melodramatic. I don't want to shit on those movies. I absolutely love E.T. and Close Encounters. They're just, tonally, they are different from Starman because Carpenter, he wants to be heartwarming, but he wants to be a little bit more mature about it. It doesn't have that kind of childlike sense of wonder that Spielberg has in his movies. It's a different kind of angle, but it is genuinely a heartwarming, kind of low-key movie that is really wonderful, and it deserves a second viewing from people who may have dismissed it initially, or maybe you've never seen it. Maybe you were a Carpenter fan like I was, and this movie just kind of slipped by you. But before I get into the details, let's give a brief overview of the plot. So Starman revolves around Karen Allen's character, who is a grieving widow, and she ends up meeting an alien life form who takes on the physical appearance of her husband. And together, they need to get this alien, or the Starman, back to his ship that crash-landed somewhere in Phoenix, or that's where the rest of his crew is going to be meeting to take him off this planet, in about 3 days, and if they don't, then he ends up dying. So that's kind of the stakes of the story. And along the way, these characters interact, they get to know each other, and the main theme of the movie is that of grief and kind of overcoming that. And the movie is essentially a road movie. It's a road trip movie. It's also part chase movie because the government, very obviously, is coming after them, and they want to keep the alien hostage here to do experiments and all that stuff. So that's the classic Carpenter cynicism sneaking in, which is great in terms of showing the corrupt nature of the government, which I absolutely love and agree with, by the way. So there's that element that still feels very Carpenter, and visually the movie still looks like a Carpenter film. It's got that great visual style on widescreen, and it's a great looking movie. I love all the practical effects done by Rick Baker. And tonally, the movie is lighthearted when it needs to be. It's dramatic when it needs to be. It has some action, which is great. There's a great car chase later on. And it's also one of Carpenter's funniest movies. It's not as funny as Big Trouble in Little China, obviously. I mean, that is hands down Carpenter's funniest movie, and that's a perfect film for completely different reasons. But when there's humor in Starman, it's very, very funny.
Well, for your information, pal, that was a yellow light back there.
I watched you very carefully. Red light, stop. Green light, go. Yellow light, go. Very fast.
And so it's juggling around a lot of different tones, and it all works really well. But one of the reasons, outside of Carpenter's immaculate filmmaking, one of the reasons Starman works as well as it does is because of Jeff Bridges. Now, it should be noted that Starman is the only Carpenter film to ever be nominated for an Academy Award, and that is because of Jeff Bridges, who was nominated for Best Actor for Starman. It's kind of crazy to think that Carpenter's movies have never really gotten any other Academy Awards, like no Best Cinematography from Dean Cundey, who is amazing in most of Carpenter's movies, no Best Special Effects for The Thing, the greatest practical effects in any movie ever, I don't care who you are. How has that not even been nominated for Academy Awards? I mean, Carpenter's been very unfairly treated during his time of Hollywood. He's been very outspoken about that, but that's a video for another time. Regardless, Jeff Bridges is a big reason why Starman is just so freaking good. I love Jeff Bridges in most movies. I absolutely love The Big Lebowski. The Fisher King is a new favorite of mine. I watched that movie for the first time this year and absolutely loved it. So he's great in most movies, but this might actually be his best performance. It's not my all-time favorite. That's The Big Lebowski, hands down. But this might be his best performance because his character, I mean, the role he has to portray in this movie is a tricky one because he is an alien imitating a human. And it's very easy to kind of make that role come off as kind of cheesy or unintentionally funny, but it's not. Like, yes, there is humor in Starman, and a lot of it lands, but for the most part, actually not even for the most part, for 100% of the time, I completely buy Jeff Bridges being an alien in this movie. It's so well done. And any other actor who was playing this role, if they didn't convey it as perfectly as Bridges did, then this movie would have just fallen apart. Because if you don't buy into the Starman, if you don't buy into the fact that this is an alien imitating this lady's dead husband, then the movie just falls apart instantly. But because Jeff Bridges is so terrific in this movie, and the chemistry he has with Karen Allen is just a very underrated actress in general. This is also one of her best performances. She is very heartfelt and very convincing in playing a grieving widower, and she is she brings a lot of heart to this movie, and their chemistry is primarily why Starman is such a lovely and wonderful film that really deserves a second shot. So like I said, this movie gives you a little bit of everything. It's got the humor, it's got the drama, it's got some action, some thrilling moments, it's got some great sci-fi visuals, and overall it is, I would argue, the only Carpenter movie that really hasn't gotten its fair shake at being kind of a beloved cult classic like most of his films have become, especially his 1980 movies. Pretty much all of those movies have gone on to be cult classics, but Starman is still one of the ones that still hasn't really been seen yet, and it should be. This is one of Carpenter's best movies. I can't quite put it over my all-time favorites like The Thing or Halloween or Big Trouble in Little China, but it is up in like the top 5, top 6 Carpenter, his best movies, at least in my opinion. Yeah, if you haven't seen Starman, please watch it. And even if you're skeptical, you're like, I don't really like heartwarming kind of schmaltzy sci-fi movies, you know, I hate E.T. or whatever, still give this movie a shot. Like, it's different from E.T. It has a different tone. Like, it is heartwarming, but it's not too melodramatic, and it really deserves a second chance. It's so good. So anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on Starman. Have you seen this movie? Tell me what your thoughts on it are in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you love it? Why? What are your all-time favorite Carpenter movies? Give me a top five favorite Carpenter movies in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching.